August 18th, 1969, 9 a.m. Woodstock Festival. The crowd had gone from 400,000 to maybe 40,000. Most people left Sunday night. Exhausted. Filthy. Done. But those who remained witnessed history. Jimi Hendrix took the stage wearing a white fringed jacket. Blue jeans. His white Stratocaster slung left-handed. He played for nearly 2 hours. 16 songs. The longest set of his career. And then, near the end, after Voodoo Child, Slight Return, he did something unexpected. He played the national anthem. 3 minutes and 46 seconds that changed music forever. That defined the 1960s. That became the most iconic guitar performance in rock history. This is the story behind that moment. The preparation, the decision, the execution, the aftermath, the Star-Spangled Banner at Woodstock. Behind the scenes. First, you need to understand. This wasn't improvised. Many people think Jimi just spontaneously decided to play the anthem on stage at Woodstock. Spur of the moment. Inspired by the chaos. False. Jimi had been playing the national anthem in concerts for over a year before Woodstock. Since August 1968, nearly 50 documented live performances of the anthem exist. 28 of them recorded before Woodstock. Jimi was obsessed with the song. Worked on it constantly. Refined it. Experimented with different versions. Some performances were short, 1 minute. Some were long, 6.5 minutes. The Woodstock version, 3 minutes 46 seconds. Jimi knew exactly what he was doing. But here's what's interesting. Even though Jimi had been playing the anthem for a year, his band hadn't rehearsed it for Woodstock. Mitch Mitchell, Jimi's drummer, said in his memoir, "We hadn't rehearsed or planned to do the Star-Spangled Banner at Woodstock." The band, Gypsy Sun and Rainbows, was brand new. Completely untested. Let's understand what Jimi was dealing with. The Jimi Hendrix Experience had broken up earlier in 1969. Noel Redding left. The chemistry was gone. Jimi needed something different, so he assembled Gypsy Sun and Rainbows. His largest band ever. 6 members. Billy Cox on bass, Jimi's old Army buddy from the early 60s. They'd served together in the 101st Airborne. Reliable. Solid. But they hadn't played together in years. Larry Lee on rhythm guitar, Jimi's only band that ever included a second guitarist. Larry had played with Jimi in the Chitlin Circuit days. Good musician. But this was his first major festival. Mitch Mitchell on drums. Holdover from the Experience. Jazz-influenced playing. New Jimi style. But adjusting to a bigger lineup. Juma Sultan and Jerry Valles on percussion, adding a funkier, more Afro-Caribbean vibe. Experimental. Risky. 6 musicians. Completely different sound from the Experience's power trio. And they'd had 2 rehearsals. Maybe 3. That's it. The rehearsal tapes still exist. Music scholars have analyzed them. The verdict? Terrible. Simply could not play well together, said Professor Joel Braden, who studied Jimi extensively. The rhythm section was loose. The percussion clashed. Larry Lee's guitar parts didn't mesh with Jimi's. That if you heard those rehearsal tapes, you'd think, this band is going to bomb at Woodstock. But something magical happened when they hit that stage. Maybe it was Jimi's presence. Maybe it was the moment. Maybe it was pure adrenaline. Whatever it was, they locked in. The band became tight. And when Jimi launched into the anthem, solo, no band, he was completely free. Woodstock was supposed to end Sunday night. Jimi was the headliner. The closing act. The biggest name at the festival, but delays destroyed the schedule. Traffic jams. Rain. Technical problems. Sunday night became Monday morning. By the time Jimi finally took the stage at 9 a.m., the audience had vanished. Peak attendance. For 100,000 to 500,000 people. When Jimi played, 30,000 to 40,000 remained. The field was a sea of garbage. Mud. Abandoned tents. Exhausted hippies. Those who stayed? Hardcore. Die hard. They came for Jimi and refused to leave. Jimi hadn't slept the night before. Not really. Maybe 8 minutes total. That he was exhausted. Wired. Running on adrenaline and who knows what else. But he played anyway. 2 hours. Full energy. "Thank you very much and good night," he said after Voodoo Child, Slight Return. "I'd like to say peace, yeah, and happiness." The set was over. The band kept jamming. Jimi could have walked off, but then he made a decision that he launched into the national anthem. Why? That's the question everyone asks. Why did Jimi play the anthem at Woodstock? Some say it was political. A protest against Vietnam. An anti-war statement. The feedback mimicking bombs and explosions. Some say it was patriotic. Jimi celebrating America, reclaiming the anthem for his generation. Some say it was artistic, pure musical expression. Text painting, making the music reflect the meaning of the words. Truth? All of the above. And none of the above. 3 weeks after Woodstock, Jimi appeared on the Dick Cavett Show. Cavett asked him about the controversy. What was the controversy about the national anthem and the way you played it? Jimi shrugged, looked exhausted, said, I don't know, man. All I did was play it. I'm American, so I played it. I used to sing it in school. They made me sing it in school, so it was a flashback, you know. Cavett reminded the audience that Jimi was a veteran. 101st Airborne Division. Screaming Eagles. Paratrooper. When you mention the national anthem and talk about playing it in any unorthodox way, you immediately get a guaranteed percentage of hate mail, Cavett said. Jimi didn't care that he played what he felt. Here's what Jimi actually played. The traditional melody, but completely transformed. He started with the opening notes. Recognizable. The anthem. Then he bent the strings. Added feedback. Made the guitar scream. Explosions. Bombs bursting in air, literal and metaphorical, machine gun fire. Staccato bursts of distortion, air raid sirens. Wailing notes climbing and falling. In the middle, he played taps, the bugle call for military funerals. A reminder of the cost of war, then back to the melody. Sustained notes. Trembling. Distorted. O'er the land of the free, the highest note, held long. Resonating, then silence. The anthem over 3 minutes and 46 seconds. A sonic portrait of America in 1969. Chaos. War. Death. Hope. Freedom. Terror. All of it compressed into one guitar performance. The crowd reaction? Mixed. Some people got it immediately. Understood what Jimi was doing. Wept. Stood in awe. Tom Law, from the Hog Farm Commune, said, We're at the most peaceful gathering that was probably happening on the planet at the time. And he hooked us up with Vietnam. It was the devastation and the brutality and the insanity. That was a quintessential piece of art. Journalist Bernard Collier, backstage writing notes, described it. Suddenly into my head stabbed this sound. It sounded exactly like rockets, missiles and bombs bursting in air. I'd never heard anything like that in my life. But not everyone appreciated it. Conservative Americans were outraged, saw it as disrespectful, blasphemous, un-American. Hate mail poured in. Threats. Accusations. How dare a black hippie drug addict desecrate our national anthem? Never mind that Jimi was a veteran. Never mind that he loved America. Never mind that his friends were dying in Vietnam. The establishment. Jimi's version was an attack. The counterculture. It was liberation. Same performance. Two completely different interpretations. Here's what people miss about Jimi's politics. He wasn't a simple anti-war protester. His views were complex, contradictory. Eric Burden, from The Animals, recalled that when Jimi first arrived in England in 1966, he was hawkish on Vietnam, talked about stopping Chinese communism, supported the troops. But by 1969, after 3 years of war, after watching friends die, Jimi's views evolved. He wasn't anti-America. He was anti-bullshit. The national anthem performance wasn't protest, wasn't celebration. It was truth. Raw, unfiltered, honest. This is what America sounds like in 1969, Jimi seemed to say. Not glory, not propaganda, but reality. War, death, chaos, and somewhere underneath, still, the hope of freedom. Technically, the performance was a masterpiece. Let's break down exactly what Jimi did, because it's more sophisticated than just playing the anthem with distortion. Jimi used a technique called text painting, making the music directly reflect the meaning of the lyrics. This technique has existed throughout music history. Gregorian chants used rising melodies for words about Jesus ascending to heaven. Baroque composers would write descending bass lines for words about death or falling. Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire chorus goes down, 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 with a descending melody. But Francis Scott Key's original 1814 anthem didn't use text painting. It was just a British drinking song melody to Anacreon in heaven, with new patriotic lyrics slapped on top. The music and words existed separately. No connection between them. Jimi changed that. He made the music embody the words. Here's what he did. Oh, say can you see? Jimi plays it almost straight. Traditional melody, lulling you in. By the dawn's early light, still recognizable. You think, okay, this is the anthem. What so proudly we hailed. Here's where it starts changing. Notes bending, feedback creeping in. At the twilight's last gleaming, distortion increasing. The stability cracking, whose broad stripes and bright stars. Jimi makes the guitar shimmer, literally painting bright stars with high trembling notes. Through the perilous fight, full chaos. Distorted power chords. Feedback screaming. This is war. Over the ramparts we watched, machine gun fire. Staccato bursts of notes. Rapid fire picking, mimicking automatic weapons. We're so gallantly streaming, air raid sirens. Notes wailing up and down. The sound of bombs falling. And the rocket's red glare, literal rocket sounds. Jimi uses the tremolo bar to create ascending then exploding notes. Missiles launching and detonating. The bombs bursting in air, explosion after explosion. Massive distorted chords. Feedback howling. Pure sonic warfare. Then Jimi does something devastating. He plays taps. The bugle call for military funerals. Played at Arlington. At soldiers' graves. For the dead. It lasts maybe 10 seconds. But it's the emotional center of the performance. The reminder that war has a cost. That bombs bursting in air means people dying. Then back to the anthem. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Asterisk asterisk. The crucial question. Jimi sustains the note. Lets it tremble. Lets it distort. Makes it uncertain. The original lyric is triumphant. Yes. The flag still waves. We won. Jimi's version asks, does it still wave? Are we still free? What have we become? O'er the land of the free, asterisk asterisk, the highest note. Held impossibly long. Vibrating. Questioning. And the home of the brave, asterisk asterisk, final notes. Softening. Fading. Unresolved, triumphant ending. No resolution. Just questions lingering in the air. The entire performance is 3 minutes and 46 seconds of compressed genius. Every note has meaning. Every distortion has purpose. This isn't noise. This is composition. This is art operating at the highest level. And here's the irony. Almost nobody saw it live. By the time Jimi played Monday morning, the crowd was tiny. Maybe 40,000 people. Woodstock peaked at 400,000 to 500,000. So less than 10% of attendees actually witnessed the anthem performance. But it didn't matter. Director Michael Wadley filmed the entire Woodstock festival. Made it into a documentary. The documentary, released in 1970, ended with Jimi's national anthem performance. Made it the closing image of Woodstock. Suddenly, millions of people saw it. The footage became iconic. The anthem became synonymous with Woodstock. The documentary won an Academy Award. Jimi's performance became immortal. Those 40,000 people who stayed, they witnessed history. But the rest of the world saw it through Wadley's film, and that's how it became legendary. After Woodstock, Jimi kept playing the anthem. He performed it at least 70 times total before his death. Sometimes he called it, This is America. The title itself a statement, and every performance was different. Wildly different. His studio version, recorded earlier in 1969, is patriotic fireworks. Celebratory. Multiple guitar tracks layered. Clean. Almost traditional, but live versions? They ranged from reverent to apocalyptic. Some were short. 3 minutes of respectful interpretation. Some were long. 6.5 minutes of pure experimental chaos. Some were played at the beginning of sets. Some at the end. Sometimes Jimi emphasized the beauty. Sometimes the horror. It depended on his mood. The audience. The moment. What was happening in the war? His last known performance. August 1st, 1970, in Hawaii. Less than 2 months before he died in London. By then, Jimi had been playing the anthem for 2 years. Over 70 performances. And he still found new things to say with it. That's the mark of true genius. Not just creating something once, but continually reinventing it. Making it new every time. The anthem became Jimi's signature. His statement. His way of processing America. His complicated relationship with his country. He loved America. Served in the army. But hated what America was doing. The war. The injustice. The hypocrisy. The anthem let him hold both truths at once. Patriotism and protest. Love and anger. Hope and despair. The influence of Jimi's Woodstock anthem is incalculable. Before Jimi, You didn't mess with the national anthem. It was sacred, untouchable, off-limits. You sang it straight, voice and traditional instrumentation, or you didn't sing it at all. The anthem was government property, military property, not something artists could interpret freely. Jimi changed that. Forever. After Woodstock, everything opened up. Suddenly, musicians realized, we can make this our own. We can interpret it. We can find personal meaning in it. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi's spiritual successor, played Jimi's version before a baseball game in the 1980s. Guitar screaming. Faithful to Jimi's vision, U2 included the anthem in their Rattle and Hum tour. Rock version. Edges of feedback and distortion. Countless rock guitarists have attempted it. Some successfully, most not. And then there's Whitney Houston. Her 1991 Super Bowl performance, widely considered the greatest anthem performance ever, wouldn't exist without Jimi. Houston didn't use guitar, didn't use distortion, but she did something revolutionary. She made it personal, made it her own, changed the phrasing, added her signature melisma, made the anthem express her feelings about America, that freedom. Jimi created it. Before Jimi, Whitney couldn't have done that. It would have been considered disrespectful. After Jimi, it was celebrated as artistic genius. Every guitar player who tries to make the anthem distinctive, every singer who adds personal interpretation, they're walking the path Jimi opened. He showed it was possible. Showed it could be done with respect and innovation simultaneously. Living color guitarist Vernon Reid, one of the few black rock guitarists to achieve mainstream success, named Jimi's Woodstock anthem as one of his two favorite Hendrix solos. The other? Machine Gun from Band of Gypsies. Both recorded in 1969 to 1970. Both about war. Both visceral, terrifying, beautiful. Woodstock was the end of the hippie era, Reid said, and he's right. Jimi's anthem was the soundtrack to that ending. The 60s began with hope, peace, love, revolution. By Woodstock, the dream was dying. The war continued. The establishment won. The revolution failed. Jimi's anthem captured that moment perfectly. The collision of idealism and reality, hope and horror, dreams and nightmares. That it's not a protest song. It's not a patriotic song. That it's an honest song. And that's rarer, more valuable. Here's the final truth. Jimi's Woodstock anthem works as both protest and patriotism because it refuses to choose sides. That it's not anti-American. It's not pro-war. It's not even definitively anti-war. That it's pro-truth, pro-reality, pro-honesty. Jimi took the national anthem, a song about glory and heroism and victory, and added what was missing: the cost, the pain, the death, the horror, the questions. He didn't erase the beauty, didn't destroy the tradition, didn't mock the anthem. He made it more complex, more real, more human. He added the parts that official versions leave out: the screams, the explosions, the terror, the uncertainty. But he also kept the hope, kept the aspiration, kept the question: can we be the country we claim to be? That's why it endures. That's why it matters 55 years later, because it refuses to lie, refuses to sugarcoat, refuses to pretend war is glorious or that America is perfect, but it also refuses to abandon hope, refuses to say America is irredeemable, refuses to give up. The final notes still ring out, trembling, uncertain, distorted, but there, o'er the land of the free, the highest note, sustained, asking a question without words. Are we free? Can we be free? Will we be free? What does freedom mean when we're dropping bombs on villages? What does the brave mean when we're sending kids to die? Jimi doesn't answer. He just plays the question, holds it in the air, lets it vibrate, lets it distort, lets it haunt us, and lets us decide what it means. That's why it's a masterpiece. That's why it's eternal. That's why, 55 years later, we're still talking about it, still analyzing it, still trying to understand it. 3 minutes and 46 seconds that contain multitudes. August 18th, 1969, 9 a.m. Woodstock. Jimi Hendrix took the national anthem and made it new, made it honest, made it real, made it unforgettable. Nearly 40,000 people saw it live. Millions saw it in the Woodstock documentary. Billions have heard it since, and it's still the most powerful version of the national anthem ever performed. Not because it's the most respectful, not because it's the most traditional, because it's the most truthful. Jimi played America as it actually was in 1969, not as propaganda said it should be, not as nostalgia remembers it, but as it was. Complicated, Contradictory, beautiful and horrifying, hopeful and despairing. All at once. That's genius. That's art at the highest level. And that's why we'll never forget it. 3 minutes and 46 seconds. That changed everything.